Dear guests, on the first panel of the Global Leadership Forum's second day, we are with Ambassador of the Republic of Croatia to Turkey, His Excellency Hrvoje Civanatovic, Consul General of the Netherlands in Istanbul, Bart van Bolhuis, Ambassador of the Republic of Italy to Turkey, Massimo Gaiani, to discuss the possibility of United States of Europe or Europe without a union, with the moderation of Dr. Selcan Öner from Bahçeşehir University.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your introduction. Welcome to the Global Leadership Forum. The session, as Sarah mentioned, is the first panel of the second day. So in this session, we will focus on the project, the European Union project and European politics. We will discuss recent challenges and developments happening inside Europe and future scenarios for the European Union project as well. My name is Selcan Öner and I'm working as Associate Professor at Bahçeşehir University at the Department of Political Science and International Relations, and I'm specialized actually on European politics. So it's a great pleasure and honor for me to be the moderator of this panel. Today we have very special three distinguished guest speakers. Croatian Ambassador, Mr. Hrvoje Civanatovic, and the Dutch Consul General, Mr. Bart van Bolhuis. So actually, I had a chance to meet with Mr. van Bolhuis at Bahçeşehir University campus in 2018, a few years ago. So it's a great honor to meet with him that time. And now it's a great, chance to see him again here. So welcome again, Mr. Consul General. And we have also Mr. Italian Ambassador, Mr. Massimo Gaiani. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador. So great to see you as well. So welcome you all, and thank you for joining us today. So the EU has been facing with several crises in the 21st century, such as the rejection of the constitutional treaty, the economic crisis, migration crisis, Brexit referendum process, and then Brexit process, rise of populism and radical right parties in European politics, and lastly, but probably the most challenging one, is the pandemic. So the pandemic pushed the European Union to transform itself. And we saw that after the pandemic, there has been an increasing focus on health policy. Also, we see that the European digital strategy was introduced and accelerated actually. And also introduction of the Green Deal. So the goal of the Green Deal, as you know, is to make Europe to be the first climate neutral continent in 2050. So in this context, I would like to give the floor to the speakers now. And I would like to give you, for each speaker, 15 minutes to evaluate main recent challenges for the EU. And also, what do you expect from the Future of Europe conference, which is expected to end next spring? So after that, we will go into more detail with this discussion by questions. Maybe certain topics we will focus on much more. So firstly, now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ambassador of the Republic of Croatia to Turkey, Mr. Hrvoje Civanatovic. So Mr. Ambassador, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet with you all today, especially on the day today where we are celebrating the National Day of the Republic of Croatia, when we are also cherishing the people which gave everything, actually even their life, for the possibility and for Croatia and for a possibility that I can talk with you today and that I can present Croatia in your country, Madam. Well, when we are talking about the future of Europe, I need to tell you some details which are connected with my country that you can understand the whole situation a little better from the point of view of Croatia. As you know, before, let us say around 30 years, we had a very, very, very bad aggression and a war in my country, which gave us opportunity to renew all our values and to rethink our foreign policy, especially after the recognition of Croatia. And two of the main foreign policy goals were actually the integration processes to European Union and to NATO. If we are talking about the European Union today, And Croatia as a partner and as a member of the European Union, you must understand that that is really something what gave Croatia a crucial move in a positive direction, meeting the other countries in the Western European part of the world, and actually to giving Croatia a possibility to take part in a decision, to take part in an economy, and to move much faster forward than it would be possible without that. You know, Croatia was also in the past always on the border of the Western European countries. But now it's very important to say that now Croatia is on the other part, on the better part of the border. And we are extremely happy about that. But if we are talking about the future of Europe, I think we can squeeze that into very important topics, and that is further cooperation and balance. Further cooperation, that means that we should strengthen all possible ways and all possible positions of cooperation in various fields, because these cooperation will give us the topics and the possibilities of enhancing the whole system of the European Union. And another thing is balance. You know, we need to take balance, to find balance. Actually, Madam von der Leyen said that also in her last speech, that we need to find balance between those who want to open or those who want to close Europe, or balance between the regulated and not regulated fields. That is something what is very, very important. But to talk about the future of Europe, we cannot also forget that what you mentioned, and that is winning over pandemic. Pandemic is something what was really a huge burden of all the countries in the European Union, with a special meaning. And this meaning was that I could say even now still don't know exactly in which direction it's going to evolve, because all the countries of the European Union are doing and making all the possible precognitions and really trying to pull down the number of newly infected cases. But you see the other variations are coming constantly, and that is something what is very, very, very important and very unpredictable from my point of view now. Then the third or the fourth thing is the European Union must work on offering perspectives and hopes and ability to change, because I think everything what is important is a change, and change in a positive direction. In that change, I think we should foster, especially here between all the viewers today, that the crucial role will be from the side of the young people. Young people must be much more involved. Young people must be much more active, because without them, the success of the whole process, I'm not so sure that could be so successful. Another thing what you mentioned is post-Brexit times. Look, the post-Brexit time is something what is also a new challenge for us all. One of the strongest members of the European Union left. How this new situation could be handled, that is now only in a very small part of the reality known, and I think we should wait a little to make some other maybe better positions or better chances to see more in which direction is that going to be held, because I think in a moment the most of the things are not so very clear, instead of the other informations what we are becoming from Brussels and from the Commission every day. The third topic, what I heard that you would like to talk with us today, is socioeconomic challenges after pandemic. Well, I tell you at the beginning, the pandemic is still going on. In which direction is that going to evolve? I really don't know. And I'm very, very, very frightened, and I'm very skeptic because I need to tell that. I really don't know in which direction is that going to evolve. But you know, the situation with the vaccination is going better every day in the European Union, and vaccine helped you to regain ground, not to regain geopolitical race, but to regain interactual cohesion. Vaccinations are helping also to giving help to most vulnerable people, and that are the people which are in older ages. And I think we should further on concentrate on these two topics first. And then when we have the control 100%, okay, 100% we cannot control, never. But if we can control these two things, I think we can then start to rethink about the further strategy, because now we are dealing with those topics, especially when I'm talking about my country. Still, we are trying to vaccinate as much as possible people every day, and that will then help us all in the further work on the after pandemic, what we need to do. On the other side, you must be aware that Croatia is a touristic country, which has a biggest part of the budget coming from the touristic sources. And now to balance between the precautions of spreading the COVID virus and to regain again tourists back from the Western European and other countries, that is a big challenge. We are trying now to do it. We have luck that our country is very reachable from the side of the Western European and neighboring countries. That means most of those possible tourists coming to Croatia can come with their cars. That means they are not dependent on a huge buses or planes or whatever, where there are a lot of persons inside. What is actually very good. The second positive, I think, situation or precondition is that Croatian touristic infrastructure is orientated on small numbers. That means small hotels, small apartments, and stuff which are actually more reliable for small groups or families, not too big groups. You know, and that is something what I think could be of a crucial importance in the future. If we are talking about economics, I must say that look, that is very, very strongly connected with this first topic, and that is future of Europe. You know, economics run on confidence. Companies need direct assistance. Companies need effective investments and good projects, and that is something what is directly connected with the question of future of Europe. I hope we can today a little come nearer to the standpoints which could be of importance for resolving all two of these questions. And the last topic, what I heard that you would like to talk today here, is the Green Deal. Well, that is something what is very, very tackly situation, because the European Union must seek out the sustainable model of actually going further on in an economic advance that will help from one side regain power, regain profits, but also helping the environment to stay in a condition as it is, what is very bad in some of the territories, but also the conditions which could be improved, because improvement is needed. That can be settled maybe with proactive climate diplomacy, leading by the example of some of the countries in the European Union, in the Western European Union, which can enhance these positions faster than the others. From my side and from side of my country, we are we are still trying to catch. And in this catching procedures, we are developing very, very fastly. And with the leadership of the Commission, I think we can find a solution to catch the other countries, especially in the Western European part of the EU, which will help us to regain and to catch the way and to catch the system as fast as possible. And that is actually the main point of what I wanted to tell you. Future of Europe is cooperation and balance. And future of Europe is not only the future of a big, strong countries, but also small members which need help and which will really try to do their utmost to catch as fast as possible, to regain power and to regain also the health of, not only the health, but the well-being of the people, citizens of their countries, but also maybe a small contribution to the others. That is something what I wanted to tell you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador, for this very insightful, comprehensive presentation. Thanks a lot. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Consul General of the Netherlands in Istanbul, Mr. Bart van Bolhuis. So, Mr. Consul General, please, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Seljan. I'm happy to be with you again. It's actually the fourth time that I'm at BAU University. First 2 years live, and now because of the pandemic, the video, but happy to be with you. Let me start also first with Mr. Ambassador, to congratulate you with National Day, and we are very happy to have you, your country in the European Union. It's really an asset, as you clearly described. Let me, we Dutch sometimes are a bit blunt and direct, and let me also be very blunt and direct in answering the questions that you raised. So the first one actually, will future see United States of Europe or Europe without the European Union? Well, none of the two, I'm sure, none of the two. But I will come back to that later on. There will be something in between. And you also raised the question of the new order in Europe and in the world. I think, and I will try also to explain it, that the new order is already there in economic terms and in cultural terms, but not everybody is knowing it yet or realizing it yet. And it's also time to, I think, for the European Union as a whole, for Europe as a whole, to look a bit to the revision, to adapt our institutions also to the new order in Europe. And that might be clouded a bit because of the pandemic and because of Brexit, but next steps are needed. I will pay a bit of attention to, my opinion, what is needed in the next 1 or 2 years, still in the pandemic, in the aftermath of the pandemic, and then so a bit on the medium term, so let's say 5 years, 6, 7 years. Netherlands is not a great country. We are a great country and we're great people, but not so much in the long-term vision. We're very pragmatic. So I will limit myself to these 2 time frames. Yeah, but let me go back a week ago to Rotterdam, to the finals of the Eurovision Song Contest. And let me first of all congratulate Italy and Massimo, and Mr. Ambassador, with your great win in Rotterdam. And well, if you take that championship, we might take the championship of the European football champions coming up. I learned the first match actually is between Turkey and Italy on June 11th. Well, I wonder who is in the finals at July 11th. Well, could be Turkey, could be Croatia, could be the Netherlands, could be Italy. Looking forward to that. But going back to Rotterdam last week, the theme of the finals of the contest was open Europe up again. And I think we all know that is needed, and we are looking forward to it a lot. We were so happy that we had 3,500 spectators, people in in the festival itself, all tested, but as a real step in opening up. And yeah, my Croatian colleague talked a bit about the economic recovery of the pandemic. I think, at least for our country, that won't be too much of a hazard, to say it very bluntly. I think in 2 years we will be back before, and hopefully we will be able to build back better. We'll come back to that later on as well. But it's more important also to address the, let's say, the socio-cultural aspects of the pandemic and the post-pandemic, especially also for students and younger people, because I know you are affected a lot. The Eurovision Song Contest in itself also mirrored a bit the new order that we have in Europe already. For the girl singing for the lady singing for Greece. She was born and raised in the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands, really bicultural girl. And well, look at the Russian performance, very strong lady from, what was it, Tajikistan, I think. And that's exactly what's happening. The new Europe is already there. Actually, it was a pity that Turkey was still missing for this contest. A pity for Europe and a pity for Turkey. But last week, we see two little things happening or little things happening in the Netherlands. On Wednesday, a new minister for climate and energy was appointed, and her name is Dilan Yeşilgöz. Background. Very beautiful name, actually, the green eye. But you know, it was happening as normal to somebody with the Turkish background to be member of the Dutch cabinet. Friday we had the launch of Getir in Amsterdam. All smart and green mobility on bikes and electric scooters. It's passing by as a normal thing, but it is the new order that's happening. Last year, Pinar Abe, the CEO of INEG, Turkey, left for the Netherlands. She's now a board member of INEG Global, one of the biggest companies in the Netherlands and in Europe. And it's happening without big debates, and it's happening as normal. At the same time, we're working with Dutch and Turkish denim jeans brands and factories on topics like circular economy and recycling. Very close cooperation. It's happening by the day, and we know that the value chains, in terms of value chain, Turkey and Europe are so much connected. So the new order in Europe is already there, but we have to adjust also the framework to it. And yeah, and then focusing a bit more on Europe and Turkey and looking at the broader picture. I had to talk last week with the president of TUSIAD about this kind of things as well. And we know all around here that it's so important that we can step up in the talks about the customs union, renewal of the customs union, visa liberalization. It's our great opportunities for Turkey and for Europe. And it's a missed opportunity that we cannot tackle these things first. And I think everybody of us is also happy to seeing some opening up in the relations between Turkey and Europe, also led by Germany, Chancellor Merkel, supported by our country and a lot of others, but also some first steps by the Turkish government on dossiers like the East Med. But the most fundamental issue is still out. Is Turkey part of Europe of the European framework? Does Turkey want to be part of the European framework? And it's about economics. Just mentioned a few elements of it, and we also know that post-COVID, with all the international industry readjusting the value chains and wanting to have closer loops, that it is giving also great opportunities for Turkish in economic terms. But it should be picked up. Economic structural reforms are still needed. And the signals that are sent out by the government are still very biased. Look at what happened with the situation of the president of the central bank, the euro lira currency fluctuations, for example. And even more important, and we all know about this, is also the values, the political and values about being part of the European framework. And also here, the signals are very biased. Stepping out of the Istanbul Convention was really a blow for a lot of people here in Turkey, also for us. But also the issues like rule of law. Last week, I was with another hearing on the Osman Kavala case, but also what we saw happening with the students of Boğaziçi University. So very mixed signals, but we all know that steps have to be made to open up the real integration of Turkey in Europe, which from our part is needed as well. And the position of the Dutch government is very clear. We still support the European candidacy, the Turkish candidacy a lot. There's of course the question if everybody every citizen in our country is still of that opinion, and here of course it always takes two sides to tango. I will also address the other big elephant in the room, that's populism and Islamophobia in our country, in our countries, and we have to deal with it, the real issues. But there are also real concerns if we talk about the future of the European Union and the common values. We have discussions with Poland and Hungary, as you know, and like my Croatian colleague said, we have to find the right balance here. And in a broader sense, I think populism is making life in international relations more complicated. We saw 4 years with Trump, obviously, what it meant to have to close loop at your own country, only American first. But happy that we are now a momentum that we can pick up transatlantic relations and also can have a clear look to multilateralism in a broader sense. The return to the Paris Agreement of the United States is a very important and a remarkable step. Well, in our own country, the Netherlands, we are building a new government, probably a five-party government, Italians, almost Italian-styled government that we will have. And one of the main issues for the next years is building back better, closely related with the Green Deal and the European agenda. And I think this is also clearly a very necessary and technical and practical agenda where also our countries can meet. There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of needed talking about climate, transition towards a circular economy, and a lot of good cooperation is already going on. I hope to facilitate a meeting with first Vice President of the European Commission, Frans Timmermans, about the Green Deal with Turkish industry and enthusiasts soon. Yeah, the EU agenda for the next 2 years, of course, post-COVID, building back better the Green Deal, and hopefully also activation of the Turkish-European relationship. We have to wait and see there. The future of Europe in the longer term, I think, should be and will be more of flexible response to crises and challenges. We know that Europe is built upon crises. Actually, steps forwards in European integration were always related with crisis. I think we never would have thought a few years ago that health would be an important topic for the European agenda. Now it is. 10 years ago, perhaps we didn't know that immigration and things like the Turkish deal Turkey deal would be so important for our European agenda. So we have to be flexible, but in a way that it's not necessarily stepping up to ever closer union every time. That is an important thing to be discussed. So flexibility means that you have to act when it's necessary, but also that you, at the same time, have an open eye on the question, is European policy really needed to every extent? We in the Netherlands also strongly believe in issues like subsidiarity, and if you can take the decisions at a lower level, you should do it at a lower level. Our health care system, for example, is very much based on local and regional policies and interventions. Well, COVID showed us that that isn't enough, that European action is needed, global action is needed, but that doesn't mean that everything is needed on the European level or everything is needed on the global level. So you have to have diversity and flexibilization. And also in a broader sense, and I think I will stop there, if you look to the European institutions of membership, I won't advocate to start big debates on institutional questions now, but one has to be also, one has to have an open eye for more flexibility in that sense. Well, the new order here is also already there. If you look to European framework, we see a union of 27 members, but we see also a Eurozone, which is smaller. We see a Schengen area, which is bigger. We see an economic framework, which is bigger. We still have to do the real questions about Brexit. What will our real economic and political relation with the UK be, and how will it develop? And the same we have to do with Turkey and other countries. So in my opinion, that will move, but it's very much open, obviously, for this discussion and questions. In my opinion, also the opinion of the advisory board to our government, one has to go to more variations in memberships. We have to accept the fact that the European framework is a diverse and framework and one of variations. But the bottom line should always be the importance of the internal market, fair and internal market, and also the shared values that we have in Europe. To be part of this European family also means sharing some basic values about rule of law and so on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Consul General. Very interesting, very important points you touch upon, and especially maybe after listening, Mr. Ambassador, we may touch upon also and discuss more about flexible integration models and differentiated integration in the EU, especially after the pandemic. What do you think about this? I would like to hear more about this as well. So now I would like to give the floor to our last speaker, and also I would like to congratulate Italy for the Eurovision Song Contest, winning of the Eurovision Song Contest. And I hope, you know, Turkey will also return back to Eurovision Song Contest as well as soon as possible, I hope. So I would like to give the floor to our last speaker, Mr. Ambassador of the Republic of Italy to Turkey, Mr. Massimo Gaiani. Mr. Ambassador, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much for the invitation. And of course, best greetings to my colleague for the Croatian National Day. Concerning the Eurovision contest, it has been extremely surprising that Italy has won with a rock song, which is very unexpected, and it changes the perspectives of how culture moves around in Europe. But it also shows that things can change, and that young people think and behave in a new way, and there is no things that can be given for granted. I will start my intervention by responding to, by answering your question. And as my Dutch colleague, I'll say none of the two options. The EU is an ongoing process of progressive integration where the present situation is a mixture between supranational cooperation and intergovernmental model. We have had very important transfers of sovereignty where entire sectors are the exclusive competence of European institutions. Just to give an example, international trade is run by the European Commission and the member states have no word to say. This transfer of competence is very large. Just think of the single currency, the single market. Presently, almost 80% of the legislation adopted by national parliaments is coming from Europe. Therefore, it's unthinkable to have a Europe without the Union. It's too much integrated in the system and you cannot remove. Just think how costly and difficult it was to accept that one country left the Union. That was Brexit. And it showed also how much our systems are completely interlinked. But at the same time, there are areas, in particular in the security, defense, taxation. These are spheres where member states could not accept to give up their sovereignty. And therefore, a federal model was not practical. I must say that the combination of the two models is not free from problems. Take, for example, the economic governance, where we have a single currency, common instruments to control inflation and to impose budget discipline, but we lack a common engagement to promote growth. So our central bank does not have the same kind of mandate as its US counterpart, where you have the control of inflation and to foster growth. And this part lacks in the European system. In the same way, it is very difficult for the EU to speak with a single voice and to reach unanimity. Is a cumbersome and lengthy process. And this makes it difficult for ACT to act in international arena. And even the single market, one of the most important achievements, can be put at risk for security or even more recently for sanitary reasons. The situation made for the EU difficult to address effectively in the last years 3 entangled major crises on which I would like to concentrate my intervention: economy, migration, and institutional and decision-making process, raising questions on the ability of the EU to face the most serious challenges of our times. Regarding the economy, we were in the longest economic crisis since World War II, going on since 2008, with higher employment, very little growth, and the only remedy seemed to be austerity and budget discipline. And this brought the North-South divide to grow larger, and economic integration somehow stopped. Economic imbalances bring, of course, political and social imbalances. And as regard the perception of European towards the EU, affection and trust in the European project decreased, not in a dramatic way, but it decreased, especially in the countries more affected by the economic crisis. If you look at the migration, a cyclical crisis with manifold consequences. It exacerbated economic tensions and the divide within the European, between countries of first arrival and the rest of countries. And it influenced culture and political imaginary with a growing sense of fear and less sense of opportunity arising from migrations, and to consider Europe as a welcoming entity open to the rest of the world. And this, I think that it had also a strong effect on the enlargement process. And it affected the trust in the EU capability to solve problems. Last of these two entangled crises, the institutional, of course, Brexit, first time ever a EU country leaves the EU. But even the accession process, almost frozen until 2025, despite strong calls for opening of accession negotiation from various countries like mine. And the EU, in a certain sense, is in a stalemate. The bigger challenge is the decision-making process adequate? Is the institutional structure of the EU fit for the purpose? Can it speed up policy process, or is just adding more red tape? This is the feeling of some people. Is the EU still able to export stability and growth as it did in the post-Berlin Wall world? It is able to play in foreign policy a role that is proportionate to the size of its economy and market. But I must say that then came COVID and the consequent enormous economic crisis. And what happened when COVID-19 struck Europe? Several member states were among, mine as well, were among the first countries to be hit and had the worst burden of the pandemic. We lost almost 10% of our GDP. And unemployment raised. And in front of the global pandemic, it became clear that the rules followed until then didn't work anymore, that no country could overcome it alone. And in a certain sense, COVID-19 brought a sudden change of pace inside the EU and a renewed interest for multilateralism. This is overall consequence that goes beyond Europe, but that is very much felt in Europe. And I can say that the future of Europe started there from the damages of the pandemic, as the very European project started from the consequences of World War II. It has shown that a shared sovereignty can be more effective than acting separately. Although not everything was impeccable, the common approach on vaccines, overall, it was successful, and it brought us in a better position than other countries acting alone. And more solidarity, this is extremely important, more solidarity derived from the pandemic among member countries. More burden sharing has been accepted, also by those who could not accept before that. And the global situation, the change of administration in the US, the global climate awareness campaigns, the idea that to end the pandemics, we can act all together, leave space for better international cooperation. So we adopted Next Generation EU, the biggest financial package in the history of the EU, with two main elements, solidarity and also looking at future, looking at young people that are the biggest value in Europe. And I completely agree what my Croatian colleague said about there. So we, for the first time, issued bond, independent bond is on the agenda. We are speaking about it, to have a kind of common public debt. And I believe that reforms are also part of the deal and represent a real chance to resolve long-time problems, improve our competitiveness, and speed up our growth. Reforms are never just imposed on us, because the reforms are part of the package of Next Generation EU. For instance, our country that will be the biggest recipient of these funds, more than 200 billions, needs to do reforms, but these reforms are good in itself, independently from the fact that they are connected with funds that we will receive. I think that to summarize that, the response to COVID is the better proof of a symbol of how effective the EU can be when everyone cooperates. 260 million doses received and almost 240 administrative, one of the highest utilization rate in the world. But also vaccine solidarity, because we cannot forget that more than 100 million doses produced in the EU are also exported elsewhere. And Turkey is also part of this, and we really hope that it will soon receive a very high number of these doses. Just a word to sustainability and the Green Deal. Despite the financial difficulties, the EU decided last July to focus our multi-annual financial framework that goes from 21 to 27 on green transition, on green economy, committing itself to climate neutrality by 2050. The Italian G20 presidency and our co-presidency in COP26 have focused on sustainability. I think that it's a challenge for third countries such as Turkey to improve also their climate standing and to adopt even more ambitious goals. I think that we have only one planet. We are trying to demonstrate that we care about planet, and we want to act by giving our example. So in a certain leading by the example and showing that after all, Green Deal is also a good business because it puts the European industry in a better position. And this is the kind of indication that we want to deal constantly with Turkish business representative, that it's a great opportunity also for them to catch. Last on foreign policy, EES turns 10 years older this year. And the only way to cope with strong geopolitical actors challenging, of course, the EU is to behave as a single body. United we stand, divided, I think that we fall. And the Treaty of Lisbon uses three perfect words to define foreign policy. Consistency, we must speak with one voice because speaking clearly makes our policies more understandable to the world. And coherence, the most live up to the expectations by tailoring our actions and its declaration. And then cooperation. Cooperation, we have absolutely to seek cooperation with third countries whenever possible. And just let me go back to the relations with Turkey. I think that the new Europe, the new kind of decision-making process needs to consider with great attention Turkey. Turkey is an indispensable actor. It's a country, a regional power, emerging regional power in the Mediterranean. It's an area that is so important for Europe. And I think that we need Turkey as much as Turkey needs us. I think that there is no future for Turkish industry except that with EU cooperation. More than 50% of Turkish exports goes to Europe. 2/3 of the foreign investments are European. Italy has been number one in 2020 in terms of foreign investments. And Europe as a whole has been a very, very relevant investor. And it shows that Europe trusts Turkey, that it considered it a partner. And I do believe that our industries, our economies are very much interlinked. And so what is good for one is good for the other. And we have to continue to bet on that. We have to modernize the custom union, which is 25 years old. And of course, it has been, in a certain sense, overdone by other agreements that we have set with other countries that are less near to Europe than Turkey. We have adopted agreements which are more advanced with countries that are far from our regions. And I also think that the inevitable change in the chain of value, the reshoring, the fact that we have to bring some productions nearer to Europe makes Turkey a perfect candidate for this kind of modification in the industrial structures. But we have to work together. We have to have trust in each other. And this implies a lot of effort on both sides. This is what I wanted to say. I hope to have stayed within the time limit that you gave us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Yes, exactly. You keep in the time limit. So thank you so much for this very comprehensive, very interesting presentation with the very important points you touch upon as well. And also especially thanks also for your very constructive comments about Turkey-EU relations and integration process of Turkey as well. You mentioned very important concepts such as solidarity, sustainability, which are very crucial things for the European Union. And also vaccine solidarity, which is one of our crucial topics nowadays all over the world. So, and actually European Union has to really play a very pioneer role for vaccine solidarity in all around the world, actually in Europe particularly firstly, and then also for the rest of the world. And also you mentioned the role of Turkey in the region and also the relations between Turkey and the EU in terms of, customs union modernization process you touch upon as well. Which is also a very crucial topic. And also Mr. Consul General mentioned visa liberalization process in Turkey. It's one of our main priorities as well. I hope it will be solved as soon as possible. Also for the woman academic, actually, for example, when I was traveling for a conference, I usually get 1 year multiple entrance visa, although I'm, specialized in European politics. And before the pandemic, I have to travel frequently for several conferences in European countries. I can get only 1 year multiple entrance visa from several member states of the EU, Schengen countries. So I hope this visa liberalization process also will take place as soon as possible. So let's go into more detail on certain topics. You already mentioned very crucial topics, but maybe we can go into detail in certain parts much more in depth. So firstly, we can start maybe with the migration crisis, and you already touched upon briefly, especially Italy was one of the countries which affected so much from the migration crisis as well. Turkey as a neighboring country, we are also affected from the process as well. So how do you evaluate the solidarity crisis after the migration crisis, and how do you evaluate the new migration pact? Do you think that it can solve the solidarity crisis inside the EU, or do you think that this externalization of migration management will go on? Because we know that there is a collaboration with Turkey, with Libya, and with Morocco as well as the neighboring countries. Do you think that the new migration pact may contribute solving of this solidarity crisis inside the EU? I would like to, maybe let's start with the Mr. Ambassador of Croatia, Mr. Cvitanovic. We can start first with you, and then maybe shortly you may touch upon this question.
Sure. Look, I think the collaboration, is it through the Migration Pact or something else? But let us talk about the Migration Pact. That is something of what is of a crucial importance. Because sure, the Italy is also on the way, Greece is on the way, but also Croatia is on the track of the thousands, or let us say hundreds of thousands of refugees, which are actually knocking on the door or knocking on our borders every day. And it's very hard. It's very hard to prevent entering, especially from the point of view of Croatia, because the most of the refugees are not planning to stay in Croatia. They are trying actually to pass Croatia to go to the further in the western direction. But anyway, collaborating through the Migration Pact or something else which is connected with the work together on the resolving of the migration problem will be of a crucial help. I think without settling those questions and tackling all those questions together, we cannot reach any good success, because with the time, sure, some of the countries tried to close their borders, but look, closing the borders, that is not a process which can last for decades. That is just maybe a drop on a very hot actual surface, and it cannot bring too much. But anyway, through the collaboration, is that Migration Pact or something else, that is a crucial way to resolve the problem, which is tackling every country, but not in the region, in a broader region, not only in the European Union.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. Mr. Consul General, you want to go on?
Thank you. Yeah, talking about migration or refugees, I always wanted to start with my admiration and about what Turkey is doing with 4 million refugees here. We do our bit, but Turkey is doing much more, and that needs our support and solidarity. The arrangement agreement made during the Dutch presidency in 2016, it was, with Turkey, what we call the Turkey deal in our language, I think turned out to be still very important. Solidarity is an important aspect here. I just wanted to refer what the Italian ambassador was saying. Solidarity is perhaps not the first word that comes into mind when you think about Dutch policy also in the European Union, but I think, to be honest, our government learned a lot during the migration crisis and the presidency about the fact of the positive effects of working closely together in the European framework and showing also solidarity. Solidarity with Turkey, with Greece, with Italy, I think also with Spain is of importance. And I also want to underline what Massimo was saying about that COVID also showed us the importance of solidarity. It might be just one step away from the migration item, but in the last Eurobarometer, which is showing that, luckily for the first time also with Dutch citizens, the aspect of the need of solidarity in Europe has grown considerably also, thanks to this COVID crisis. I think also in the same Eurobarometer, you see that the two topics of most concern for Dutch citizens, for Dutch voters on the longer term are environment and climate and migration, because next to apart from the actual crisis that is still continuing in Syria and other places, you will have this pressure, this knocking on the door from countries around Africa, Pakistan, Afghanistan. We see a lot of pressure there. That is here to stay. I'm afraid to say. So you have to, if you want to tackle this this issue, you have to look at, and let me use the word solidarity again, because also in our own interest, you cannot solve these issues without looking to the issues at the global scale, how development and growth in countries like Asia and Africa, and also that needs a clear European vision. And the next level in thinking about migration. We think now a lot also of things like talent acquisition and the positive side of migration, but we have to reach the next level here. It's a complicated issue, but it should be built on solidarity and effective support and interventions in countries of origin. Again, here also climate is, I want to mention climate again, because things are, I'm afraid, more related than we still think. If we're not able to tackle the climate crisis and really effectively, also climate adaptation, we will see I'm afraid, much more refugees around the globe. So really we have to act. Something that we do, for example, in the Netherlands, working closely together with countries like Bangladesh and other Delta countries, but this is it's here to stay, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Consul General. Very important points, especially what you mentioned lastly is very, very crucial. As you said, the climate change and its connection with migration is one of our main priorities in this period. Probably it should be. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Gayani. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As it has been said, a very complex problem, a problem that is going to stay for us, and migration and population movements are part of the humanity. They have always happened, and it's almost impossible to stop them. First of all, of course, I have to add my voice in expressing the admiration for what Turkey is doing in a very efficient way and in a very commendable way. And I think that this is not always well completely perceived in Europe of the size of the effort. It is a huge effort to accept almost 4 million people. That represents sometimes 1/3 of the population of the areas where they are staying, and I'm speaking of the Syrians, so you have to adapt all the infrastructures. Just think of the schooling of 900,000 Syrian students going into Turkish schools. I will not repeat all what my colleagues have already said. I would just like to say that we are we understand well the position of Turkey, because in a certain sense, Turkey is like us, a country of transit, in the sense that migrants so often comes to Turkey in order to reach other countries, and sometimes they get trapped there. And certainly we have to say that Turkey is protecting the flank of Europe by stopping a flow that is never ending, in the sense that from Asia there can come millions and millions of people that we cannot, of course, host. And this brings me to the last point that has not been touched up to now. I think that we are facing a huge flow of illegal migration. And the only way to stop this flow is by opening a channel of legal migration. And I think that this is the only way in which you will receive the full cooperation of the countries of origin. Legal migrants are extremely valuable for the countries of origin because they can send remittances that are sometimes an important part of the budget of these countries. But illegal migrants are much less valuable because they cannot enter in the regular system. They earn much more, and so they are less valuable. And I think that there must come a way. Of course, we have to help them grow. Just think that in Africa, every year, 15 million of young people come into the job market, and there are jobs only for 5 million of them. So it's a growing problem. Of course, we have to help those countries to growth and to offer opportunities in their own countries, but at the same time, we have to accept a certain number, a certain level of legal migration that is needed in our countries because we are getting older and we need some numbers of this. And after the 2008, all of a sudden, all the European countries blocked the legal migration. And I think that this was also one of the causes of the massive illegal migration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. A very important point about legal migration that you mentioned, as you said, because if there is a real necessity in the European continent for legal migration because of the aging of the populations, as you stated, and also when blocking the irregular migration, but at the same time, some of the asylum seekers actually cannot have a chance to seek for asylum as well, which is their legal right. So there has to be actually definitely a new solution has to be found. And I hope the new migration pact may be a step for this process. I hope, try to keep hopeful about this because in the Mediterranean, unfortunately, even in this year, more than 500 people have already died. So I hope there is a solution for this process. And this solution can be found as soon as possible for this humanitarian crisis as well. So I also would like to, you already, Mr. Consul General mentioned about rise of populism and Islamophobia in the Netherlands as well. And I would like to ask all of you briefly, could you evaluate, how do you evaluate the rise of populism and radical right in European politics? And also after the pandemic, do you think that the populist radical right parties will keep their rising, or do you think that there may be a decline after the pandemic? Actually, this is also a very important question for me because I'm also dealing with these topics, and I was a visiting professor at Louis University in Rome in 2018, and I made a research about Lega actually, and their perception to the European Union and how they see the European project. And actually, it was very interesting research, and I found out that, I wrote an article about this also. And I argue that, after the Brexit process, several populist radical right parties, rather than, leaving the EU, they started to discuss about transforming the European Union project, actually, rather than leaving the European Union. So after the Brexit, there was a fear that maybe it may lead to domino effect to other countries for leaving the EU. But we observed that they usually change their rhetoric, and rather than leaving the EU, they start to emphasize that we will transform the European Union to a more intergovernmental, probably, project. So it was very interesting observation for me. So I would like to hear your comments, maybe from your countries, also from for the several countries in Europe, and also there is rise of authoritarian tendencies in Poland and Hungary as well. Maybe you want to touch upon this as well, and the reaction of the EU towards these countries. How do you evaluate them? Thank you. So I would like to again start with Mr. Ambassador of Croatia, Mr. Cvitanovic, please. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Actually, when we are talking about the radicalism, we need to to connect that immediately and strongly with crisis. Because if there are situations where the living is starting to be hard, actually, during the various problems in various countries, most of the people are mostly then turning on the right hand. You know, and that is something what is usual, what we need to know, and what we can take in a consideration in front. That is something what is also happening now in the European, some of the European countries, because actually the situation with the flow of refugees, and actually maybe even more the threat of the flow. I think that is very important topic what you should keep in mind, the threat of the flow. It's always then causing the response of the radicalism. If we are talking about the Croatia as a country, we have luck that actually the minorities which are in Croatia never had any problems with having their part in the government, in the everyday life. Actually, Croatian people are very tolerant. Why? Because we had, as I told you in the last year, big problems with the actually attack of one of our neighboring countries with their armed forces on our borders. And actually most of the people, and most actually the minorities, realized that as a threat on all of us, and they responded together. And I think that is the leitmotif which we should talk about. You know, because if you see it at that point, then you can react, and most of the people are then reacting very, very closely together. And I think that is the point, reacting together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So, Mr. Consul General, please, floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a very important question and topic that also stands between the two of us too often. I think there are three things I want to mention. First and foremost, it's important in admitting the fact that it exists. Islamophobia is with us, I think, since, as we say, the Turks were in the front of Vienna, and it was always there, always part of our collective mind. And with ISIS and people, even this week in the Netherlands, running around with knives and shouting Allah Akbar, that doesn't help. And of course, we know that there's no reason to link extremism with common sense Islam. I think one has to accept, or not accept, one has to admit that these things are there and out, and the same with discrimination. I mentioned it's very biased also in our countries. I mentioned before that Dilan Yeşilgöz was appointed as Minister for Climate and Energy this week in the Netherlands. There was not one voice raised that, or question raised that a lady with a Turkish background could be in that position. And but at the same time, we see that if you are applying for a job with a Turkish name, your chances are not as big as you apply with a Dutch name. It doesn't mean that everybody is racist, but in the system itself, institutional, these things still exist. So the first thing is admitting that it's there. Secondly is addressing the issues, also, to be honest. And the only thing that you can do that is in an open way. I think for a long time, we tried to hide it, to push it away. One has to be very open and clear about it, and look at the fact that there are people in our societies who are more afraid of, more xenophobe. It's something to do with levels of education. It has something to do with prospects that you have yourself, way of openness and international orientation. So you have to address that. And the fact that we didn't address them that properly gave rise to populism in all of our countries. Well, the good thing is that, at least in our country, we see a decline of populism also, I think, thanks to the fact that we are addressing it in a way. And as you said, the populistic parties are very effective in changing their area of concern. Europe was a big issue for them, but after Brexit, they are more focusing on things like the COVID crisis tackled, migration still. But the good thing is that our country, I think, is showing that it's possible that these tendencies are in decline if you're addressing it on a good way. I'm not saying that we're doing it perfectly. There's a lot to be done. But again, you have to start with admitting the fact that it exists, trying to address it as open as possible, and look at the ground for this kind of effects. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ambassador Gayani. Could you unmute yourself?
Yes,
okay.
Sorry. Thank you. A bit along the same lines of my colleagues, I must say that the combination of the economic crisis, of illegal migration, brought a rise in uncertainty, a rise in fear, and lack of trust in the ability of supranational bodies like European Union, like UN and its agency to solve problems. For instance, Italian resented the fact that as a country of first arrival of migrants, we were suffering a higher burden and little solidarity from other countries. And this brought something that I will not call it populism, but certainly a different way to pursue national interest, which was, let us say, a global phenomenon. No, it was raised. It raised in US, saying that the working class was not protected from the unfair competition of other countries that were producing at very low costs. This brought some people to believe that on your own you could do it better. But I think that the pandemic brought a great change in attitude, as well as Brexit did. And there is now much more trust in a common action altogether. And also I think that the fact that we were all subject to the pandemic brought many people to reassess what humanity means, the fact that you have also to care for those who have less, and if there is someone in need, you need to help. We were, in a certain sense, living a kind of euphoria that everything was possible, and we didn't care about what was not in the path of in our path. And then all of a sudden we understood that we were all fragile, all subject to this pandemic, to this virus that could harm anyone independently from its resources, his social status. Everyone was the same. And I think that many people rethink the way of positioning themselves in these very huge issues, and more cooperation, more respect of the other points of view emerged. And as my Dutch colleague said, these movements, this kind of attitude is lowering down in Europe, certainly, no doubts, and there is a more common action.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. And now my last question is, maybe it's more comprehensive question, and you may touch upon the main points about the issues. So how we discuss about flexible integration models and differentiated integration a bit. So I would like to hear more your opinions about this topic. So especially after Brexit, are you expecting more? It seems that after the pandemic also, we don't see maybe more federal movements in certain cases, maybe in certain policies, more integration, but in certain policies, maybe more flexible models. So what do you think about differentiated integration in the EU after the Brexit? And also, how do you evaluate the impact of Brexit on security and defense policy of the European Union? Maybe you may also combine with, after the Biden administration, we see maybe rising collaboration in transatlantic relations with NATO-EU collaboration may be much better. And maybe also you can add to this question the role of collaboration with Turkey as well. So I would like to hear your opinions about these topics, flexible integration model and the security and defense policy of the European Union. Thank you so much. So we can start again with the Mr. Ambassador Cvitanovic.
Yes, if we are talking about flexible integration, that is something what will be seen in the next months, because I think in a moment I cannot tell you exactly do I see a very, very firm and straight way. But if we are talking about the cooperation within the NATO, that is something completely different. That is something which is of a crucial importance, because the NATO is the crucial pillar of the security in the broader region, and maybe I can say also the security in the world. Without NATO, I don't think that the security can be guaranteed on a level which is today. Sure, the Turkey is one of the major parts of the NATO and the major countries which are contributing on the various fields, not only on a financial but also on all the other fields. If we are talking about the actually flexible or more or less flexible integration systems, I just can tell you that Croatia was from the beginning on the standpoint that one of the main foreign policy goals for Croatia was the integrational processes. After the integration of Croatia in the European Union, the thousands of pages of acquis communautaire which were translated to Croatian language were completely and immediately transferred to our neighbors and friends in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What we did after that also to the Northern Macedonia, and then now in a moment to Montenegro. That is something what is very clear in the foreign policy goals of Croatia. That means the integration will also then contribute to the stability. And I think these two things are unavoidable, and they are very, very dependable. And without those two priorities, we cannot see the further success of our region, of the integrational processes, not only in the EU, but also in others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. You can go on if you like, Mr. Consigliano, please.
Thank you. Again, an important question, and I said a bit about it already, that I believe that we will be heading to a more flexible system and more differentiated European framework. Luckily, we've seen that debate blocked for quite some time, because you were all pro or contra, federalist or non-federalist. There was this term of the two-speed Europe to be avoided. That was also not very helpful, I think, in this discussion. But as my Italian colleague clearly stated, there are issues that are purely federal, like the trade policy, internal market. They are needed to be on the fully supranational level, but I think differentiation is needed. I gave this example about health policy, and what is needed now is not necessarily needed in 5 years, and what is not needed now can be different also. So I think it's important also to show that every step that you make for integration is a definite step, and you never will be able to step back again. So also this frame of the ever closer union, I think is and was not very helpful. And I fully agree with you that that post-Brexit we need more discussion, and not only discussion, more thinking also about this framework of customs union, and other forms of integration. But also for the relations with Turkey, I'm very happy that there are some openings now also given by the European Council to have at least some thinking going on about the customs union and the values of it. We need to tackle it, and it will take time. But once we have it into discussion, you will see that the dynamics will start again. I fully agree with everybody here in Turkey who's saying that having this back on the agenda, having European Union, Europe as an anchor for Turkey in economic and political terms is the most important. But as I stated before, also steps and signals from the Turkish side are needed. But one has to be clear here. Otherwise, we won't be able to move forward. Yeah, and happily, we can also restore the transatlantic relation after 4 devastating years with the Trump administration, to say it bluntly. So my next job in August, I will leave Istanbul for Washington DC. So that will be very much on my plate on the economic side. Also the economic security. Will we be still able, Europe and the US, to be present in the complex international arena if you're talking about norms and about economic business. So I think that will be quite interesting, and it's important again that Turkey is linked to this framework. That in my opinion, is as we stated before, it's important. It's important for Turkey. It's important for Europe that Turkey remain or will be strengthened, better anchored in the European framework, and via the European framework also in the transatlantic system. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Consul General. So now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Ambassador Gayani, please.
Well, thank you. A very complex question that would require a whole, let us say, hour at least to be dealt properly. I, of course, can rely on what my previous colleagues have said and that I endorse. I would say that in a certain sense, we have been talking for a long time of the subsidiarity principles. That means to do things at the appropriate level, sometimes at supranational level or national level or local level. Of course, the pandemic has put in question many things. For instance, on the sanitary, in countries like Italy and Germany, health was the competence of regions. So at a level below the national level. And there are questions if this is appropriate for something as devastating as a pandemic, and that you need some actions at national level and some action even at supranational level, because probably we cannot really tackle the pandemic if we do not set standards that at a European level and even at world level. And at the same way, we need to vaccinate everyone, because otherwise, if we are only vaccinated in certain countries, the system will not work. So the idea of all this is integration, sometimes at different speeds. And in the integration, I firmly believe that the whole Western Balkans need to enter into the European Union at a speed that will be decided according to each one's own merits, but it's something that needs to be done. It's part of Europe, and the integration of Turkey is another necessity for Europe to become stronger, to become more effective in stabilizing the areas in which there are crises, sometimes quite dangerous countries. Of course, as it has been said, we need goodwill from everyone. We need also to accept the values that are at the standing point of our integration and that we have all accepted, and the reforms that are needed and that we are trying to do ourselves, and that I think that other countries also should do in order to become in a stricter, more strict relations with Europe. I would end up there. We are already 5 minutes out of our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So yeah, unfortunately, I can ask you many other questions. Actually, I really enjoyed this debate so much, and I learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. Very important points that you touch upon, all of you. Thanks a lot for all these excellent and very comprehensive, informative presentation and discussion after that. Very important point is also what Mr. Ambassador Gayani mentioned, also multi-level governance and rethinking of multi-level governance inside the EU after the pandemic is very important topic. And also in terms of integration of Turkey to the EU, as you mentioned, also Mr. Consul General mentioned the mutual trust issue. So I hope we will improve the mutual trust between each other, between Turkey and the European much more. And also, I hope, at least gradually integration process of Turkey will go on. Maybe firstly with the more technical topics, like, in the customs union modernization and, liberalization of the free visa liberalization process. And then I hope the full membership prospect will be also realized as soon as possible. So thank you so much again for your contributions, for joining us today. And I also would like to thank Professor Burak Pintay for organizing this Global Leadership Forum for many years. And I hope this forum will go on for many, many years. And also I would like to thank to the successful team of Bahçeşehir School of Government and Leadership as well. So, and I hope next year we will have a chance to meet face-to-face with each other and at another Global Leadership Forum at Bahçeşehir University campus in Beşiktaş. I hope we will see each other again. So I would like to end the session now. And after our session, I just want to remind to our listeners that there will be another panel on Israel-Palestine issue after us at 2 o'clock. So thank you so much again, and stay safe and healthy, and have a nice Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.